When I first moved to Montreal, I was looking for something in the city that resonated with me. It seems like everything above ground is being documented in one way or another. Underground's a completely different story.
Tout le monde est au courant de ce que je fais, puis tout le monde adore ça. Ils s'imaginent pas à quel point on n'est pas supposé faire ça.
We built our cities on the shores of rivers. Over time, we pushed rivers away, out of sight and out of reach. But they're still there, hidden everywhere. And around the world, city dwellers are on a quest to reconnect with this lost nature.
The first projection shows an image of how most people would visualize a river or a creek. Then by the time you get to the last projection, you see everything is forest underground. I wanted to introduce that face of water in the city to the public, to get them to reflect on what's changed.
To understand the story of lost rivers, we travel back to the beginning of modern cities everywhere. And to one city in particular that, by the early 1800s, had become the largest in the world.
Right under London streets, there are rivers a few feet away. People think it's just the River Thames, but in fact there are 15 or 20 buried rivers. Two-thirds of the tributaries within London are partly buried or completely buried. If you look down drain covers, you can actually see them in the distance flowing past. And you can hear them quite easily too. Water is essential to life, and we don't think about that explicitly very often. The rivers were used to run mills, to run tanneries, all the early industries. And for drinking water, it's essential to have fresh drinking water, so people congregate around rivers.
The idyllic coexistence between city and water was short-lived. In the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution spread through London and around the world. City populations exploded, and wastewater became too much to manage. The streams and rivers that had enabled urban settlement in the first place became putrid, open-air sewers.
The conditions got particularly poor around the River Thames. In 1858, the Great Stink, as it was known, occurred. There was a particularly hot summer. It bred bacteria. The smell was much worse than usual. Parliament couldn't work, and London began to close down.
But bad smell was the least of their worries. Cholera spread through contaminated water, killing city dwellers by the thousands. It was a 19th century version of the Black Death. There was an increased panic that cities had become unlivable. The only solution was to confine rivers underground.
Je fais partie d'un réseau de gens qui sont fascinés par les entrailles des villes. On nous appelle les drainers. Drainers, sewer people, underground people. C'est à l'international, ça. Je retourne régulièrement à Londres, puis c'est pas près d'arrêter. Je kick you in the face.
I have had that happen to me. Someone trying to get out of the fleet really quickly and swung their leg around. No, just gave me a mouthful of sewage, which is nice.
This one is
About 1883.
Okay.
During the 19th century, London was growing like no city had ever grown before. It had to work out the systems that allow people to live so close together. The project was led by Joseph Bazalgette, who was a sewer pioneer. He saw the need for a system that would cater for the whole city, and he put it into action on an enormous scale. The quality to which they built these sewer tunnels was astonishing. Nowadays, the best engineers are working on aeroplanes, high-tech stuff like that. In the Victorian era, they were laying bricks. And that's why a lot of rivers are under our feet flowing through Victorian tunnels.
Where is Lizzie's Palace? Buckingham Palace?
That way.
That way, okay.
I've always wanted to try and get a picture of that, but not gonna happen. Tree roots going all the way up there. To get that long, man. That's pretty long.
The London sewer system became the blueprint for industrial cities around the world. The way of the future was marked by the burial of most urban rivers. But their presence is still felt.
I've met people who've said, oh, I know that street. There are a lot of houses that appear to be sinking. From what I understand, there is an underground creek that was here, or there was water underneath. I've never seen it, but, you know, it's something that makes sense.
The Garrison Creek flowed for thousands of years until the end of the 19th century, when the city began to bury it into a sewer, which is what we're standing in today. This is the entire watershed of this part of Toronto. So the natural watershed, everything that falls from the sky, and then the human watershed, everything that comes from our houses and businesses and industrial buildings. It all ends up in here.
The Garrison Creek is one of many rivers flowing under Toronto streets. In the downtown core, these rivers are encased in 19th century sewers that trap both rainwater and raw sewage. And they're caught up in one serious problem. When the system works properly, the mix of buried river, sewage, and rain is led to treatment plants outside the city. But as population density keeps rising, old Victorian technology can hardly cope with all the sewage. In times of heavy rain, the system overflows.
We were identified as one of 43 polluted areas of concern in the Great Lakes Basin in 1987. One of the reasons that beaches are posted as unsafe for swimming is due to high levels of E. coli bacteria. Combined through overflows, were impacting water quality along our beaches.
Pretty much any pipe that you can see, it's going to be mixing stormwater with sanitary sewer water. So you've got,
right there?
Yep, that pipe right there. When that flows after a rainstorm, it's going to bring water that's been on the road where the cars are, along with anything that was supposed to go to the sanitary sewer system. If you touch the water, you're actually at risk of getting some sort of disease or virus that might be contained in the sewage. Frogs and turtles and fish can't survive or reproduce naturally because there's so many chemicals.
Paris has the same problem. Rome has the same problem. Philadelphia, Montreal, Toronto. It's a very interesting issue.
In the 1990s, two architects looking to beautify the parks along the Garrison Creek's old course had a bold idea. One that could reduce Garrison sewer overflows in a whole new way.
The paradigm was as soon as it rains, all the water runs into an underground system, and then you catch it all at the bottom. And it's all an engineered system. It means building pipes, and it means building treatment centers. Whereas the other movement was this idea that you could treat this naturally.
The idea was simple. Instead of leading rainwater straight into the sewer, rechannel it into the parks. Create holding ponds where the Garrison Creek used to flow and where water still naturally gravitates.
You can see the kind of grade going down here, right down there. There could be a network of a small stream linkage all the way down. Trees actually have a function. They just pull the water up. Wasn't something like 200 bathtubs of water per day they can pull up into the system. So the polishing and the cleaning issue is done by the trees. Or when the water, the storm water, which is rain, let's call it by its honest name, rain, it hits the ground, infiltrates, and it moves. You don't have to treat it at all.
It was a whole new approach to water in the city. Instead of leading it away, hold it, enjoy it. But what would it take for a city to latch on to such a drastic shift in thinking?
Our river, which it goes right through town, is not there. It's underground. The joy of water and things that can actually really make a difference in people's lives haven't been there for a long time.
This is important for Yonkers to turn us around.
In my almost 40 years of doing development, to have taken a project in my hometown where I was born and raised and make it much better than it was for the last over 90 years, that is like nothing else I've ever done.
I waited a long time for this, haven't we? I tell you, it's been fantastic. Look at this. Here we are, what, 4 or 5 years later?
Oh, 4 or 5 years later.
Making this a
lot
reality.
of time, a lot of time.
It's a great day. Can't make this stuff up, huh? Whoever thought it would be done.
Well, the Sawmill River, the poor little river, that was a wonderful river called the Neprahan, which is actually a Native American term called sparkling waters, is a 19-mile-long river that goes through suburban areas. It's very built up. Henry Hudson, whose name is placed on the Hudson River, he comes up, he finds this beautiful bay, there's a bunch of fish, there's, you know, just really rich environment and water power.
The Sawmill River actually acted as the highway to Yonkers to grow it. This would be the late 1800s, early 1900s. We had hat factories here, furniture manufacturing done in Yonkers, a lot of woodworking. We were a booming industrial town.
Then, lo and behold, we started changing the river, which happened all over this country in industrialized areas. The rivers were squashed and put in corners. Everybody thought this was a lousy little, stinky little river. So they put this cap on top of it in the 1920s. It's called a flume sometimes. It was buried, and we put a parking lot on it. We, like, really mucked around with this city.
As the industries grew and as labor costs grew, little by little, the businesses moved to other parts of the country where they could maintain their profit margins.
People have sort of been waiting for things to happen in the downtown. It's really hard to get people to invest for new things around a parking lot.
We're taking the Larkin Plaza parking lot and we're creating, which I'll show over here, a park and opening up some of the water that's in the tunnel or the flume. We'll be taking that water out and making it into ponds and a recreation park adjacent to the area.
When I signed the lease 5 years ago, I was very nervous because I see all the boarded up buildings, all derelict buildings, abandoned buildings. This location would be a destination attraction site. It will bring in more people, it will bring in more residents, more business for merchants such as myself. So overall, it's a good thing, a positive thing for City of Yonkers. Excuse me for one moment. Sings Pizza, hello. Yes, good, thank you.
God created this river, and today man will begin the process of restoring it and daylighting it again after 90 years of being buried.
It can be a beautiful asset. It can be something that will attract people to our downtown. And that's exactly what this is going to be.
Just look up, don't throw. Yay! All right, congratulations.
Some people call it full circle. We're trying to re-mimic the things that work well in nature.
In the north of Italy, surrounded by mountains, is a small city built over an incredible network of Roman rivers.
This is the river, imperfectly oval.
Wow. Water is so clear, eh?
So clear, yeah.
In this city, a group of drainers has become legendary and has attracted its kind from around the world.
Un des petits rêves de ma vie, c'est de rencontrer cette équipe-là de Bridge Underground parce qu'ils sont fascinants.
This is the main big map of the administrations of the rivers. This is the middle city, the park.
The city
center
was smaller, very smaller than today.
How many rivers passing through the center town?
Through the center, there's about 7 rivers. No.
When he was young, Andrea couldn't shake off his curiosity for his city's buried rivers. He and his friends started popping manholes and mapping out the network. They were trespassers, outlaws, as all drainers are.
Did you start young doing that?
Yeah, 20 years. I have 30 now. Sometimes.
Did you get in trouble?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, with police and others. Asking sometimes why you do this, why you popping manholes.
How everything always starts is you start studying the manhole. There is a ratio of failure to interest.
Oh, yes.
Which is very in favor of failure.
Wow.
You win some and you lose some.
Yeah. In 2006, the administration see our works, the pictures about the underground, asking to us if it was possible to make the official association because they think is a right thing.
Brescia Underground were the only ones to have ever really documented the rivers under their city. Overnight, they went from being a bunch of outlaws to a legitimate historical society.
It's like a mission for us,
Yes.
showing to everyone these places.
Certo, prego.
Staci attento,
Si impiega poco, Se lei aspetta un attimo, si si proprio qui.
Staci attento a mia moglie perché io ci tengo a mia moglie.
Benissimo. Il letto, se guardate bene, è tutto formato da lastricati in pietra, in marmo, sempre d'epoca romana. Quindi questo ponte qui marmoreo è del 1400 circa, l'hanno gettato sul Bova Celato, che sono questi fiumi, per ampliare appunto questa chiesa. E andiamo poi a visionare i punti storici più belli. Ponti romani, strutture medievali, antichi accessi per le concerie, gli opifici, strutture medievali in linea di massima, dal 1200 al 1300 fino al 1400 alcune.
Moi, je suis presque jalouse de ce groupe-là parce qu'on rêverait tous de pouvoir avoir cette opportunité dans chaque ville. Tout ça pour revenir dans le passé, puis de la vie des gens, parce que sans les rivières, il n'y avait pas de vie. Tout a fonctionné autour de ces eaux-là.
Se stai passando di lì.
Clinton?
Pronti? Canada.
Typical of this country, isn't it? It's because it's London and it's all based on rivers, and the rivers are pushing everything up, and the drains are overflooding because they're getting water from the top and water from the bottom. So we're liable to float away. Yeah, we are. It was the hailstorm in Basel.
In 2007, in the UK, there was an instance where a month's rainfall fell in just a few hours. If this type of event occurred in London, then it's been estimated that it could cause as much as £10 billion worth of damage.
Burying rivers and paving over landscapes have gotten us in quite the bind. Concrete can't absorb water. During heavy storms, drains fill up quickly, and rainwater has nowhere else to flow. Southeast London is built in a valley and has always been prone to flooding. Through the heart of it flows the River Quaggy.
It flows underneath the buildings here, so this part of the river has been culverted probably 100 years or so. When I first started working in London and saw these concrete channels and culverts, as an ecologist, there was a certain sense of outrage.
This area is a testing ground for a completely new strategy in flood prevention.
Taking away concrete sides, daylighting rivers, and actually creating areas for which flood water can be stored.
In 1990, local people objected to a flood alleviation scheme that was planned for the River Quaggy that was going to put it into more and bigger concrete channels. We certainly wanted to have our properties protected from flooding, but we also wanted our river back.
Before the scheme, Sutcliffe Park was an ecological desert. The Quaggy has now been opened up. It's been transformed to a local nature reserve and a series of wetland habitats, quite rare in London.
In times of severe rain, barriers to the park are opened. The nature reserve becomes a holding area for excess water until it can flow out safely under the city's streets. It's called a no-regret strategy. Whether or not it's enough to manage the future effects of climate change, scientists can't predict. But in the meantime, residents are rejoicing in the change.
As a consequence of the Sutcliffe Park, there's been a growing esteem from different communities to say, why can't our river be like this? Which is fantastic.
The growth of the city is largely taking place through intensification. We're going vertical as opposed to horizontal because we've maxed out in terms of the amount of area that's available for development across the city. That puts additional strains and pressures on our system.
It wasn't a nostalgic project, although there was history involved in this, but there was a real functional and monetary, economic kind of side to this, and it made some sense.
When we sat down with the engineers, said, no, you need open space to have ponds. And we said, well, look, ding, 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 ding. There's 125 hectares of open space, and here's where we can put the ponds.
A number of city councilors have no clue what we're talking about, no idea.
Unable to grasp the potential of a natural water treatment system, in 1996, city officials approved a plan that would bury the Garrison Creek even further down. The 4-kilometer-long Western Beaches storage tunnel traps the sewage from 8 overflow points. It can hold enough sewage to fill Toronto's CN Tower to the top, twice.
This is sold as a renovation of the outdated and crumbling sewage infrastructure, whereas it is nothing of the sort. It reminds me of the time when my roof was leaking, and all I could do was put a bucket where the water was leaking. That didn't fix the roof.
We continue to build larger and larger sewers and interceptor systems and storage chambers and storage tunnels. It's never enough because there will always be a storm that is large enough or long enough to overflow these sewers.
This was a project that engineers could have picked up on and introduced a whole new paradigm. And then Toronto wouldn't be kind of looking after other countries to kind of tell us what to do, but we would have been the leaders in that 10 or 15 years ago. I guess now when it's going to be something happening all over the world, then we'll pick up on that.
We have some Oriental kind of location theory. We call it Feng Shui. In order to have a nice house, you got to have a mountain backside and water in the front. So when founding fathers comes to Seoul to determine the location of the palace, they went up to the mountain and see which is the best location. They found the river here. So this is the best location to situate the palace. So this is the story of Chengiz being.
아니, 선생님. 청계천 온 지가 우리가 6년이 됐으면 애기 낳아서 키워도 6살이고 7살. 이런 것도 죽고 막 그래야지. 복귀하기 전에는 한자촌. 그렇게 가서 그냥 연탄재니 그냥 대서변 그냥 거기다 그냥 밑으로다 다 흘려서 그냥 청계천으로 내려가겠고 막 말도 못하게 지저분했죠.
After Korean War, a lot of refugees from the North Korea, they flooded around this area. All the sewers right
throughout to the stream.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. Wasn't quite a pleasant place to visit.
As of the 1960s, the emerging South Korean economy embraced the automobile. Hungry for new roads, the city resolved to pave over the Cheonggyechong Stream, symbol of poverty and filth. A 16-lane double-decker highway would be an emblem of progress.
Elevated highway picture always that comes out of the cinema. This is the symbol of our modernization, symbol of our development. In the beginning, it really helped smooth the traffic in the downtown, but later on, it became a very big barrier to get to the downtown.
As decades rolled on, the new lanes filled up and traffic continued to increase. The symbol of modern South Korea became a toxic, sluggish eyesore. In 1991, the idea for a massive change came in the form of yet another construction project. But this one would be radically different.
It started with a historian and an engineer.
Engineer is he.
Well, Professor Lee Hee-duk, he was professor in my university, history department. And he asked me whether the Cheonggyecheon could be restored. I told him that technically it's feasible.
The expressway had been the work of Hyundai construction firm. In 2002, it was Hyundai's former CEO, Lee Myung-bak, who made tearing it down the heart of his campaign for mayorship of Seoul. And he won.
선진국으로 진입하면서 거기에 대한 반성. 그래서 이제는 도시를 친환경적으로 또 인간 중심적으로 그렇게 바꿔야지 선진국으로 들어갈 수 있고 또 그게 도시의 경쟁력을 높이는 효과를 가져올 수 있다.
Nobody would believe that demolishing the structure, traffic can flow.
Well, he did.
Problem can be solved by the people, not by the traffic engineers or planners, because the citizens, they are smart enough to adjust to the change. We introduced bus rapid transit. 9% of people who used to drive cars shifted to subways and adjust their travel routes and adjust their time of day. All this leads to not so severe traffic turmoil in the downtown.
People living in the downtown area, we have a right to enjoy environment, ecosystems, just 5-minute walk from where you are. It's really amazing how fast the nature adjusts by itself.
You gained weight since the last time you were in this thing.
I know.
You're gonna weigh that thing down the bucket.
Yeah. And I could be happy spending my days on the river that flows both ways.
So how long have you been doing this?
October 21st, right, 1984. I think that was the break in, might have been the first day.
This was in an adventure phase.
Okay, couple more strokes and
You gotta make a left. Any river that nobody else had paddled in those days, you know, we gave it a shot.
There you go. That must be the Sawmill Creek.
All right. The idea of canoeing underground was pretty fascinating.
It's right here, and I highlighted it in this paragraph where it specifically mentions just what it could be. And then it took 33 years to respond.
Wow, 1977.
Boy, it stinks here.
I know.
Daylighting the sawmill. It's almost unbelievable. For so many years that we talked about it, it's a pat on the back for the dreamers from the early days.
Right now, we're pumping down that water.
That's the head wall?
Yeah, we have 2 pumps there pumping down there. That's going to be the head wall where those piles are.
That's my man.
Yonkers did a real gutsy thing. They have some federal dollars here, they have some state money here, but they committed millions of dollars of future tax revenue to this project. It's a really critical project. We asked the city, listen, we can fund a habitat plan to make sure that the fish come up.
The point at which I need to bring the eel passage engineer down, if we bring him from New Hampshire, when would that be?
A couple of months down the road,
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
in
a couple of
October,
months.
November.
We got to form the footings on both sides, pour the walls.
I think I made him an American eel aficionado, so I don't know how you are on that, Leo. But they're pretty wily creatures.
I learned a lot about eels and fish ladders and ecology and.
Oh, that's.
But there's your flume right there. It's fully exposed now.
I know. I think that's.
It's been underground now 91 years. I think it's in pretty good shape,
pretty
Leo?
good shape.
And no graffiti.
They buried it too quickly.
That's right.
When people own things, they take care of them. We want people to own this river.
People might ask them to get up and
So gather around the table. I don't know how many people are going to show. It said 11 people were going to show up at work. Some of them are us. So that
Don't
goes
want
there.
anybody, you know, I'm a great believer in the power of activities to revitalize a downtown. You give the neighborhood exposure, and you also help the property owners and the merchants, local merchants, understand that we're trying to get people down there for them.
Having a gospel fest or something like this that will bring folks down who aren't coming at this point.
Things that have a little more of a historic bent, you know, children's activities. And somehow that could link to something else going in the park. Right, the historic reenactments, that's a natural. Battle of the Bands.
Whoa, nice.
Very early on, we had a lot of discussion about the merchants. As we got closer to being done with this, they've just been completely neglected. I think we're going to defeat the whole purpose if we're going to talk about downtown revitalization.
My sales have dropped 50%. The construction, approximately 7 months, with continuous blocking of the sidewalk, double wire mesh fence right here. It's very difficult for people to come into my store. Yeah, we're open to come in. If I project this out for another 6 months, I would definitely be losing about $350,000. All the merchants around here are exactly the same. Either hold on to your business no matter what, or pack it in and move out.
걷어내는 작업이거든요. 그러니까 단순하게 기술적으로는 콘크리트 구조물을 걷어내는 겁니다. 그러니까 건설하는 것보다는 훨씬 더 쉽다는 얘기고요. 생업을 유지하고 있는 상인들의 문제, 또 노점상들의 문제, 이런 문제를 어떻게 해결할 거냐.
Ironically, Seoul's new green approach to development came at a human cost. Thousands of street merchants spread along the Cheonggyecheng Highway would be evicted to make way for the stream.
같이 흘러가는 시장이었습니다. 고객분들이 저희를 구경하면서 지나가다 보면은 시간도 잊어버리고 어디까지 갔는지도 모를 정도로 청계천을 보고 난다고 이제 저희가 이제 전달 받았을 때는 그 순간은 뭐 참담했죠, 한마디로.
Despite their protests, the merchants were confined outside the downtown core.
불법 영업이죠. 그러니까 도로를 불법으로 점유해서 영업을 하고 있는 한마디로 단속의 대상이죠. 근데 그 단속의 대상을 보호의 대상으로 전환시킨 겁니다.
교통 문제도 그렇고 실적은 청계천에 있을 때가 그냥 몇 배 좋았고요. 그때는 정말 좋았어요.
어떤 개발도 좋고 어떤 환경 문제 다 좋아요. 제일 중요한 거는 살고 있는 사람의 생존이라고 생각합니다.
The restoration may have triggered some social unrest, but its toughest critics were environmentalists who objected to the stream's unnatural source of water.
We have only 3 months of rainy season, but we thought it would be nice to run the water all year round. Currently, we are pumping up about 100,000 cubic meters per day from the Han River. We have to do that way. Otherwise, there won't be water flowing.
The line between authenticity and illusion may be blurred, but there's no denying that city dwellers are naturally drawn to water and to the essence of the Cheonggyecheng stream.
태호 씨는?
김영환 씨 여자친구분 되세요? 네. 오늘 김영환 씨가 이제 여자친구분을 위해서 청혼 이벤트를 준비하셨어요.
솔직히 여기는 도심 같지가 않잖아요. 막 물도 흐르고 막 자연에서 막 하니까 제가 다시 초심으로 돌아간 것 같고 물도 흐르고 막 돌도 있고 하늘에 비도 내리고 너무 좋은 것 같아요.
한 사람에 비해서는 굉장히 그래도 좀 젊게 산다니까. 행동 이런 거 보면 이만큼 세상 사는 거 젊게 살아야지 뭐 안 그러겠어.
This is the lakes.
Yes.
This is the lakes in the
So
north
the-
sides of the lodges.
You're
And
excavating.
we
you're
believe at the
excavating.
moment,
Yes.
the surface level has increased because of dirt.
We think surely if it's still again in the underground, but below the mud about 1 meter.
A medieval washing lake has become a legend in Brescia because it's been erased from the city's surface. It was covered over, then dried up, but practically no record of it exists. Brescia Underground found it. At least they think they have.
Perfect.
There's a little traffic jam. People stuck.
Perché preparano le telecamere? No, la porta fuori. Sì, la porta fuori.
Alors, ce qu'on cherche, c'est dans le lac, entouré de maisons, en fait. Il y avait une grande plateforme où est-ce que les dames allaient laver le linge. Donc, on cherche ce lit-là de pierre.
Andrea, this arch is medieval also, right?
Huh?
This arch is also medieval?
Why? Where?
This one right
No,
here?
it's Roman. It's the first Roman bridge of the city.
Oh, really?
The first Roman bridge is from the 5th century.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But are you sure that the stone is not on the other side of that bridge?
The painters, I think, was on the bridge when he painting this.
Okay, that would
And
make
you
a lot
can
of
see the bridge on the paint.
You're right. It makes a lot of sense.
Maybe if we find the platform, we want to ask to the measure if it is possible to uncover that area. I think it's a nice idea to reopen it, this, for the city too, not just for the administration or for the measure, but for the city.
Io non sono mai... Devo vedere un giorno anch'io.
Assolutamente, beh sì. Mi sa che ti tocca anche a te.
Mi incuriosito adesso.
Prima o dopo. No, poi stiamo sviluppando molto bene le cose anche con gli altri, c'è una cosa fatta bene, proprio... Esatto.
Il laghetto tutto qua.
Il laghetto sarebbe questa porzione qua, dall'albero qui all'incirca a questo
molo?
albero.
Dove sarebbe?
Il molo lo stiamo cercando, dovrebbe essere tutto qua sotto, qua. Il pezzo qui. Dovrebbe essere qua il molo.
Bello, un
Perfetto,
giorno
poi-
me lo fai vedere allora.
Assolutamente, sì. Adesso cerchiamo di finire un po' qua i lavori e poi...
Com'è?
Boh. Cazzo, qua stiamo andando nell'epoca del ferro, figa, scavare così, no? È possibile che abbiano tolto il molo lì? Che cazzo glielo fa fare nel 1800 uno di togliere 5.000 pietre bianche che pesano 2 tonnellate l'una e poi metterle dove? In un deposito. Così.
This whole area is the old flume, and we're punching a hole through here, gonna lift these off, and then the water will then flow into the new river path. This is amazing! I mean, look at that. That's a good
90
phrase.
years ago since this has been in there. Yeah. 90 years.
Tell Linda come back. She's got to see this. All right, fine. You got to see this.
At the same time, everybody. 1, 2, 3.
Here they are.
You found one, okay.
Right
Great.
here. You have to get beyond the reflection.
Wow.
I mean, he's huge.
Wow.
Right? Well, there's schools of them in
Look
here.
at him right there. Oh,
I don't have my.
That came up the ladder? Wow.
This used to be, besides what it is now, a parking lot. So this is what we've done to the parking over here. We now have a, how many story?
6-story,
6-story
300
parking
car.
garage, which seems a lot better use for that space. And this is a much better use for this space.
There are plans underway to put residential along this entire block. We're putting residential above retail on the first floors. They're looking at restaurants. They're looking at 2nd-story overlooks into this stream.
Now that I can see the river, the future, I believe, is bright. I am hanging on because the project is almost finished, and I am hoping that the 300-car garage 1 block away will open soon. I'm hoping that we would get back to sales level that I used to have. If it's greater, I mean, I would be overjoyed. At this point, having lost so much money.
Really? So we're gonna use these nets, and we're gonna see if we can catch some of the little babies, the little fish nurseries that are over here.
I would also try just lifting up some small rocks and stuff too,
Definitely.
because I've been finding some stuff that way.
First catch. Now we know that's where they come from, that they're obviously being born here, and so it's really cool. So that's what we're catching, the little black-nosed dace there. That little guy. Yeah.
Wait a minute, did I catch another one? Yep.
Kiss him. You got it? No. Come on, come on. Oh.
So you're very happy with what you found here today,
Very
right?
ecstatic.
Good. Why are you ecstatic? What does that show? What does this show?
Well, it shows that we actually built a totally new river. It actually is a living river. It has living things in it, and they seem to be thriving.
It's a crayfish.
I don't know how they found it. Way up in the
Do you want to touch it? Okay.
You can. I mean, the claws are so tiny.
I think nature is going to revitalize Yonkers. The power of nature actually will generate the power of people in this area. So that's what we're looking forward to.
What's interesting about the Garrison Creek route, though, is that some naturalists have said that birds still follow the migratory route, following down the Garrison Ravine, even though the ravine really isn't here anymore, but they still follow that route.
Human River isn't just about remembering the creek that's gone. It's also about reminding ourselves and our community that the river is still flowing here underground. And if you press your face to the lid, look closely, you can actually see the water flowing by.
Yeah, you can see it.
No, he ran away. Check and see.
70–80% of the young people live in urban environments. If we have no urban environment for them to touch or to feel or to get excited about, where are we going to get our scientists and our ecologists and the engineers who think about the environment? Where are we going to find them?
We have always gathered by the shores of rivers. As most of the world's population lives in cities, and we continue to become an even more urban race, we have no choice but to make our cities livable. Perhaps the answer lies in connecting to the shores of rivers once again, in turning to the natural world we have hidden.
Whenever we do construction, we forget about the previous pictures. But this is a very big mistake we made, covering up the stream. So that I think we have to really give our education to our descendants, not to make same mistake twice.